so I mean, I started because, as you said, my father was a composer from Kolkata. My mother was a piano player. My grandfather was a violinist on my mum's side. So I was from a musical family. So I started violin and piano when I was 5. So I learned to read and write music from an early age. And I was always brought up with the sound of the sitar from my father's work. So he did a lot of fusion projects, a lot of cross collaboration work. And then I heard the sitar and I thought that sounds really nice. And then we had some family friends coming over from Kolkata and I said, could you pick me up a sitar, please? And then that was it. I just started learning. So it's quite late. I was 16 when I started learning the sitar. And yeah, that really shaped my musical journey. I didn't really think about it at the time. I was only 16. I was very young. I just played. But in the last 10 years, I realized that my musical identity is in between. I'm half Indian, I'm half English. I've learned both styles, so it really has shaped my musical journey. Yeah, I mean they are very different, but I always think about it. It's all one language. The language is music. We just have different accents. So I never feel like I think I did when I first started. I felt like I had to take off my South Asian head and then put on my European head, musically, metaphorically. But I did in the past think that, but now I don't. I just see it as music. And so with that's really shaped my compositional style, my style of playing. I don't shy away when I play, and I have trained, touch wood, traditionally from Senya Gharana and Lucknow Shahjahanpur Gharana as well. So I play classical, but I don't shy away from my other musical influences, from growing up, what I listen to. Well, I mean, the different gharanas, I mean, they're somewhat different gharanas, but, a lot of it stems from Senya Gharana, which is a very old gharana. So a lot of the times, so the style I learned is like a Baj style, which is a playing style, as opposed to Gayaki, pure vocal style of playing, which more Vilayat Khan style. So my training's really based on the composition. There's a lot of the quite long compositions that we have, and ragdari knowledge as well. I do love tabla, so I do a lot of lekari as well. That means syncopation. Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question, Pooja. Oh, I could talk for ages on this. Okay, so I've learned trial and error. You cannot write out meend for Western musicians. Meend is the bending between the notes. So, do you know what? I've even got my sitar here. So you can have an example where if we do the meend, okay, that's from da to sa. If you write it out for a Western musician, they do this. They see it as a straight line, and it's not that. We got to make sure that you hear the note before. So be very careful when writing out glissandi in a Western score. So I get away from around that, but I don't write that. So my phrasing, I look at the rhythm within it. So that's without the means, but that phrasing you can write out, and it makes it sound Indian. It will never be purely sounding South Asian. That's not going to happen if you write it out for a Western instrument. But it gives it a flavor. And also you can give them the notes of the rag. So that would be within it. But my dad always said, when you're combining two different styles, something has to give. You can't be pure rag, South Asian, and then you can't be pure Western, because you can't. Well, you can do atonality and introduce harmony, but there has to be a give. So I made a point of approaching it from a very South Asian point of view. What I mean by that is that there weren't really any rehearsals. So the thing is that when I play, if there's sitar and tabla performance, we don't rehearse. We don't, we come on stage. We say, okay, the tabla player may ask which rag are you playing, but it doesn't really affect them that much. And then we say, which dal are you going to do? I'll start in, I don't know, din dal, I might do rubak, come back to drut din dal, and then we'll finish tihai. That's fine. That's all you need to know. So we don't need to have a rehearsal. So the idea of writing these pieces, where I said to the Western musicians, I said, you play what's written on that page. It will work. There's an up section, obviously that doesn't affect the tabla, and it's just me playing tampura. I told them about taking the breaks in between phrases, and that's all written out on the score. But when the tabla starts, for them, it's in a meter. It's in, like, if it's in Japdal, this is 5/4, 5 beats. Japdal's 10 beats, but 2 bars of 5/4 makes Japdal. So I just say, you play what's written, the tabla player will do what they do, and hopefully it'll work. So it's almost like a bit of an experiment as well, where they just come together and see if if it works that way, where you got the written score and the more ubaj improvisation style of the tabla player. Dila Komod. I write this rag Komod. So that, what we did at the beginning, if you listen to the piece, is just taking the phrases of Dila Komod. So but changing where the sa is. At the moment, sa is here. But what if you changed the sa, so the sa was here? So that it gives it a completely different feel. In a sense, that stems right back to early Hindustani music with the Mujana system, which was basically sa to sa, and then re to re, ga to ga, ma to ma, and then from each one you would get a different rag. So it's looking at that sort of system. Yeah. I mean, especially the first one, the Dila Kamod, did that main theme, which is almost like it's like a lera. So that sort of thing. So that's sort of like the basis of the rhythmical theme. So a lot of it is improvised. Most of it is improvised. So I have 2 styles of writing. The Perseverance is me on stage. When I'm on stage, I like to be free. So I like to do a lot of upaj, a lot of improvisation. But as a composer, I'm really fussy and I write absolutely everything. So I want the musician to say, no, you play this. What I wrote, it's a bit selfish to be honest. but yeah, so we came up with the themes. So I like working with musicians. So in this one, it was Steve Tromans, who I've known for years. And he's a great improviser. And I like to work with people who are great improvisers. So we have that bond on stage. So yeah, that's sort of that. Those are the 2 styles. But yeah, with Perseverance, there are ideas. So the other one in there is I think it's number 2, Perseverance 2. I can't remember which way is which. It's based on an 11-beat cycle, and it's a new rag. I didn't give it a name. It's just a new set of notes to improvise on. So we got the themes there, but it's left quite open. So there's a number of ways of approaching it. There's a way of basically you play something on the sitar and you have orchestral backing. Yeah. So that in a sense would mean that you play more classical repertoire on the sitar, and then the orchestra will fit around you. So, but the true terminology of concerto is almost a battle between the soloist and the orchestra. So if you're actually going to write a concerto, then it should actually have that interaction. and that interplay between the soloist and between the orchestra. So for my second sitar concerto, it's almost based in the classical form of a concerto, classical Western form, um, but based on rag. But what I did as well is I used Western harmony and atonality to take it in between from it being pure rag. Because I know that Ravi Shankar's written some amazing sitar concertos, and I didn't want to go down that path because he's done that and he's done it far better than I could. So I tried to find my own musical voice, and doing that, I was taught orchestration from my father, so I do all the orchestration, I do all the writing myself. So I sort of know how the sitar sounds, and I know how the instruments of the orchestra sound, so I can adjust the balance in dynamics. But the sitar is a very quiet instrument, so you always need to amplify it. So, yes, I do. We have a series in ZerOclassikal. Should I just say that ZerOclassikal, I'm the artistic director, the founder, Hadial, founded it about 20 odd years ago. And its basis was of looking at South Asian classical music and the progression within it. So, we all learn the rags, we all learn the tals, and the guts and the bandisha. We all learn that, and it's important to keep that. But it's also important to not just stay within those boundaries all the time. I'm not saying we should, that I know there's this idea of the respectfulness of the genre. And it's not, it's a very different path in Western music. The development of Western music has, really been quite dramatic over the last 200-300 years. And you know what? There has been progression in especially Hindustani music. Although people, say, "Oh, I've got this old gut in Rag Gheda from the 16th century," and that's great. But how they played it back then, nobody really knows. And Bhatkandi came along, the whole system changed. The sitar's a new instrument. It's only about 120 years old as we know it. Before then, it didn't have any of the darabs. It was more like a backing instrument. So the music has developed and it is developing, but we here in the UK, there's a large South Asian population here, and the British Asians, are finding their own identity, and that means finding their own identity in music as well. So that could be through Bhangra, through hip hop, whatever that could be. But there's a space for South Asian classical music for these young musicians coming along to have their own identity. So, coming on to your question, because I did digress slightly. So I bring these musicians in who are not from a South Asian background. They have no, and I make a point that they have no training in it. And in this free flow classical, so free flow classical is a series of concerts we do as ZerOclassikal. I will pull in a pianist, sax, or guitar. There might be four on stage. And I won't have a rehearsal. And I'll say to them at the beginning, I say, "Okay, we're going to do Rag Puya Danestri." And they'll say, "Well, I don't know what that is." I said, "Don't worry, I'm going to give you the notes." I'll give them the notes, and I'll give them a few pakkads and maybe the vadi, the samvadis, and try and miss out sa, miss out pa on the way up, or we'll set what key it is, and I'll say, if we're in C, miss out C and miss out G on the way up, and I say, "But follow me." I said, "We're going to do Alap Georgiala, and then I might take a gut, but you won't know it, but I want you to improvise around it." And yeah, so in a sense, it's free improvisation, but based on rag. I don't, I always say this is based on rag so and so. I don't say this is rag, I don't know, Baha or whatever it might be, because that's not fair to say, because they haven't had that training to really nail the essence of the rag. But it's none of it's, from a legal point of view, none of it is copyrighted. Any rag is, so to use it, I think is a good thing. As long as you don't say, "I'm playing rag, I know, Buria," and then you're not, and you're playing something else. Well, wait a sec. So I can't, I don't want to completely speak for Steve Tromans, who wrote the piece, but I can say that because I was, in the development process, we were talking all the time. He did all the work. Don't get me wrong, he did all of it. So he decided he would have you have a piano, you have two hands on the piano, one rag, a different rag. So that's what he's doing, and then two doublers, one playing one tal, another playing another tal. So that's the idea. And then there's again the basis for a framework of an improvisation that can be taken anywhere. But in the recording that you listen to, you can hear it does sound very organic, doesn't it? It does sound very natural. So that's how he did it. He's got the two different dials running at the same time. I mean, the boundaries are. So if you look at a rag performance, then the boundaries are stuck by the structure, the notes of the rag, and the tal. Yeah. So they, in a sense, in a classical sense, they're brilliant because those boundaries actually free you up because you could do so much within those boundaries. However, there's a risk that if everyone sticks to the boundaries all the time, the music that we hear, South Asian classical music we hear now, will be the same in 100 years. Whereas if you listen to even sort of like performances of Beethoven's Fifth 100 years ago, there were recordings, and the recordings now, the interpretation's different, even though they're written. But if you listen to the music of 100 years ago, you had Schoenberg over here. Debussy had just died, hadn't he? Stravinsky was around. So that early 20th century music was very different to the sort of music that's being, played now. So the idea is to not break down some of the boundaries, but shift the boundaries, alter those boundaries, to allow somebody to come in and say, do you know what? I want to do a rag, but I want to play it backwards. I want to start with jala, then go to draw and finish with alab. I did a performance of that once. Interesting. So we want to give somebody that freedom to say, yes, do you know what? And come in the studio and we'll record it for you and we'll release it on our label as well. So yeah, it's things like that. We also look at the boundaries. We don't see it as fusion. So, somebody said, yeah, I'd like to break the boundaries and play, I don't know, sarod and flute. And then the flute player will just be playing some jazzy stuff and I'll be playing some indie stuff. Nah, no, that's not what it's about. So, you got to think a bit deeper. Even just think on the top of my head, you think Marwa. Okay, let's just take Marwa. Let's break it down. Let's look at the notes within there and the importance of dha and komal re. So dha and re. Maybe I can have an association. Maybe the flute could be based on re, and I could be based on dha. Do you see what I mean? So it's just thinking a bit deeper. So for me, I'm going to go personally here. So for me, I've done quite a bit of orchestral writing. So I want to start writing. My performances are separate. So when I play on stage, I always like to push some of the boundaries. I'm a bit naughty on stage, I must admit. I do like, but so for me creatively, as a composer, I want to start writing with smaller ensembles and introducing South Asian instruments within that ensemble and make it, as the term you said, organic. So I'm looking to write a piece for brass quintet and tabla, and then hopefully a wind quintet with bansuri in there as well. So it's broadening out, that sort of make not only the genre, but the instruments within the genre more accessible to a wider audience. And also, whenever I am a composer, whenever I write something, I'm always in it. So I'm always on stage playing it, and so I'd like to explore actually not being on stage and playing it, but writing for other South Asian musicians and incorporating their stuff in with other instruments from around the world.